But I'm not saying what it was.
Well, yeah, I mean, you don't have to give that. Okay, we are live, Madam Chairman.
Okay. The August 22nd regular meeting of the Calvert City Cemetery Board is called to order. At 4:29 p.m., those present: Jeff Harrell, Bill Gregory, James Jordan, Mark Carroll, and Bill Smith. Others present: John Ward, Allison Reed, and Nick Cole. First thing we need to do is look at the minutes from the July 25th meeting. Have a motion to approve?
I'll make the motion.
Jim, second, Caleb, all in favor? It's approved. Mr. Ward, I guess this is you. Cemetery database.
Okay. Other parts of the, go ahead and all. We gave, you should have a complete document there. All of you have received updated, well, all of you have received updated bylaws. I want to make sure that, because I went back and looked at mine, and mine had 2009, we've updated, I think in 13, wasn't it?
19
19, okay. I knew it was in the team.
revised.
They were revised, and so they were updated. You've got copies of those. You also have a copy of the veterans list. And also, let's see, they're all at this point, wasn't it? Okay. So you should be updated as far as your regulations. Actually, I say that. What dates do you all have on your regulations?
Okay, well,
I know, but what was the last one? Because if we do, we need to get you some new ones. I'll get you some new ones. I think that we 19.
bylaw.
Oh, it's bylaws. It's 19. We revised them December 1st of 2020, so you guys may or may not have the updated.
No, we don't. The last ones I have were June 30th, 2009.
Okay, what about you?
2009.
Okay, and yours is up to date, the 9, and yours is off. We need
Well, yours
4
is
copies of
up
the updated
But
regulations.
then this is,
Before we leave today, I'll get you updated copies, okay?
okay, this is the bylaws, is what I have. Are
Yeah, the bylaws are
regulations
updated.
different?
Yeah, regulations are
Okay,
the
yeah,
cemetery
regulations.
regulations.
Rules
Rules
of
and regulations.
regulations.
That was 2000.
Okay, now I have revised January 28th, 2019 on that.
Okay, 2020 was the last revision.
2019.
This is December 1st, 2020. The bylaw said 19.
Rules and
So we'll get
regulations.
you the rules and regulations before you leave today, okay?
January 28th, 2019 on that. I'm so glad I can say that.
Okay.
So
As far as,
Well,
I
just-
know.
Surprise.
so I take it you all need copies.
It looks like
I did.
Okay, we'll get you updated copies before you leave.
I just didn't get my book.
We actually, and I say we, I'm talking about Nick, Lynn, and I actually we've set up a situation to put in to start with, put in all of our purchases, all the permits and all the contracts for internment that are done by Nick with whoever. Now, the way that's being handled, and he's always produced those for her in a hard copy, but she hasn't been putting them in as a digital copy. It's always been a hard copy. And then Nick's kept one for himself. So what we're doing now is we put it, when he completes a document, he scans it in, sends it to him, sends it to her. She gets the hard copy as well. The digital copy she gets goes into the server. His goes into his computer, so he's got a copy there. So that being said, then we also had a conversation. So we've got a way for this to flow. We've got a process we're going through. And then we've also had a conversation with Andy Lepisto over at GIS. And Andy created a database for us some time ago where he's got all the current plots, I should say, lots plotted. Let me back up. All the lots plotted. And in some of those, you still have the ability to open them up. And in the old 2009, which is where he's through, is 2009. I don't know if he's coming any further. Hey, Greg. He has, you can click on that and get the information. It gives you the information about who's buried there and when they were buried, stuff like that, owner, et cetera, and in different colors.
So how do you access it?
That's just it. It's not for public access yet. It's done through our GIS system. That's the thing we're working on right now, is to try to get that updated, number one. So we got to provide, we've got about 200 burials since we took over that he's got to include in that. Also, he's got to set up a grid, GIS grid for our mapping, so that if we get to the selling lots over on the far north side that we haven't sold any yet, that way we've got a geo grid to work from. So we're working on that as we stand, or as we are right now, trying to see if how this is going to work, and see if it will work the way we expect it to or want it to. That being said, if it is, then there's no more money because we're already paying for it, if it'll work. And the ultimate goal is to be able to get it out there where we can link it to our website and people can actually access information about the actual lots.
That would be great.
That sounds
That's
good.
the
What do you think
ultimate
about
goal. Now, if it comes to that realization that it doesn't work the way we want it to, where it's not getting there, we have a secondary backup. It's called POTEM, PONTEM. It's a cemetery management software. Operates the same way we're talking about. You got grave lots, and each grave lot has a database in it. Each lot, you open it up and you've got a database of information. Who's there, who owns it, date they were born, date they died. If you want to put military in there, you can do that, and it's all searchable. It also creates we'll create spreadsheets based on that as well. It's going to be a little more expensive because that's going to be a one-time upfront cost, which is going to be the heaviest part of that, and then an annual software fee or maintenance fee on top of that. So we're waiting to see right now. We don't have enough money in our budget as it stands to start from scratch. But with what Mr. Lepisto has already, going back to 2009, I'm not so sure that it will be as expensive to do that as we think. That was if they had to come out and do the whole grid pattern and everything themselves. We haven't, we've already got that done. A lot of that's done. We had Don Livingston come in. He's the one that set up the original setup for the 2009 that you have here. Unfortunately, he didn't have a CAD system, or a system, not a CAD system, but didn't have a GIS mapping system at the time. And it was, we were just getting into that. But Andy has started. He's worked with us. We did the GPR.
Doesn't that grid it? The GPR? Does it grid that?
No, GPR doesn't. GPR just searches for,
It just maps
no, GPR, they're about GIS.
ground penetrating radar.
All that does is look for bodies that we didn't know about. That's all
But
it does.
It marks them for you. I mean, it tells you where they're at.
Well, it
So
gives
then
you
we
data points that you can enter in. Yeah, that's what it says. They get a head and a foot, and they get those two data points. Those two data points were given to us. They've been plotted, and they show up on this map right now, because that's what we have no clue who it is,
Right.
but that's what we've got. So we are moving forward, and if within the next year or so, if this is not the GIS version, the Marshall County GIS version, which is what we use for our GIS right now, does not pan out the way we want it to or expect it to, then we'll talk with Ponton to see about getting that set up. So if it doesn't, we'll make sure that we budget the money in it for next year.
What kind of money you talking?
I'm talking, if we would start from scratch, it's $15,000 to begin with, and then probably something around $500-600 a year to
So it'd
maintain.
be,
It's just the
less than
upfront
that,
cost of the high, is the big stuff.
But it's gonna be less than that. We just go back to 09.
Well, I hope so. I hope it's
If it
gonna
works out.
be, if
It's
it
the
works,
first-
yeah. If they both use Esri, which is the GIS mapping system, ESRI, Esri. It's the same mapping system, so they should be, they should work together. In other words, they should be able to read what Andy's put together already, if we decide, if we have to go that route. My biggest concern on Andy is not that he can't do the job, it's having the time to do it. That's the biggest thing right there. But if we can get everything in and we've got all the documentation. If we can get all that in and get it entered, then maybe we can move forward with it. I have been able to look, we opened it up, we went through and he showed us. It does exactly what you want it to do. You select it, it's color coded, those that are empty and don't belong to anybody, those that have been bought, but there's nobody in turn, and then those who have been in tournament.
That'd be
Would be
great.
great.
And then you select that box, you know, and it tells you who's in there, who owns it. You know, whatever information you want it to display, you can put it on there. It can be as detailed as you want, or it could be just as, you know, narrowed down as much as you want. So, but that is there, and it is possible. I'm trying to figure out a way right now to get all the information that we have on the burials alone. And like I said, we've had 200 burials about it since 2009. And to do that, we're gonna have to go back and take everything we've got and create a spreadsheet for it, because I can't transfer from a PDF or a photograph that information into a spreadsheet. And I can't get it to transfer.
Is that the reason the north end hadn't been sold yet,
Part of it
because of the mapping?
Part of it is the mapping, and part of it is we haven't really needed it because we've got all that. We're mapped all the way back to the ditch
But
on the
you
west
haven't-
side.
You haven't got it up for sale. right
That's
now.
correct. We don't have anything north of that drive because, again, we still have to get clarification on our mapping on it. I mean, he's done some mapping and has a base, but we also now have added pull-offs, which will take out probably three grave sites at each pull-off, and there's 3 of them there.
How close can we get to the creek, Nick?
We have more than.
We keep, what, 5 or 6 feet from the creek?
Well.
The drainage
Avenue,
ditch.
the other thing.
Oh, but I'm saying the.
Just roughly.
Oh, that's probably.
Either side of 5, 6 feet.
So you get pretty
At the
close.
most 10 feet.
Okay.
At the most.
Yeah.
Closer than I thought.
Biggest thing is we don't want to get into a situation where we got water backing up, you know, on it or something like that. But he's also going to put in the columbarium, because it's got the mausoleum set up. But we're also going to set up the columbarium also, so that we have that. You can click there and find out who's got ashes in the columbarium, or who owns a niche in the columbarium.
That sounds great.
Sounds good.
I mean, we've been actively working on it. We actually went over and sat down with him at GIS. He came over here once. We met with him there once, and so we're just waiting to see it go from there. But I think the next step for us is to help them out, is to create a database in which we transfer that information to a spreadsheet, so we can take and add that to the GIS mapping. So that's probably our next step. The other, oh, wait,
Go
I'm
ahead,
sorry,
I'm
if you have
sorry.
any
No,
questions?
I was just looking at the veterans thing. I was gonna tell you what I've done.
Well, if you want to, you got it written down, that's the easiest way. That way I
Well,
can
I
transfer.
had this, and what I did was, I went out to the cemetery a couple of days, went through, and I looked for all of the markers that I could find, and I found 23
They aren't even listed.
that are not listed.
I'm not surprised.
And then I got information on some of the others, and the ones that I haven't got information, I still have marked on this paper. But, yeah, I have like a page and a
I'm
half.
gonna bow
of
down.
stuff.
Thank you very much.
Well.
That's excellent.
But I
That's
mean,
what I've been looking for.
that's the ones that I could find, and there are some that I know are there, but the mosquitoes would kill me.
Oh, they are bad.
So I left.
Are there any that are on that list that are not buried there?
Yes, there are.
That's what I wondered. And
That I haven't been able to find them yet.
the
so I'm
only
still
reason
looking-
I say that is I don't want someone to think they're there,
Right.
and we may want to pull those off and contact someone
Yeah.
else about them.
I'm still looking for a few that I,
I'm not so sure that one or two of them were out at these, and you might want to look through
Well,
that.
you give me the names, so maybe
and I know one's like at Memorial Gardens.
Did you find a couple you thought were D's? Or was it,
Uh,
I know Memorial.
I found Memorial. I didn't find it
Oh, okay, all right.
yet, but that is,
I'm mistaken.
just means I didn't find
Yeah, he just happened to run across some obituaries and it say where they were at and
Yeah.
matched up with
That's,
some.
yeah, I was trying to do that some other time. Anyway, so whatever you want to do, if you want me to get with you or.
Either way you would do
Whatever
it,
you
I
wanna
mean,
do.
you know, yeah, you can either
But I
send,
just wanted to
you'll
tell
just come by the office sometime, let me know, we'll set up an appointment, and
Okay.
we'll get it set in.
Okay. Are we ready, I guess?
We
Do you have
have,
something else?
we have, I have one other thing as far as old business, we've replaced the pump at the fountain.
I've noticed the
That is a larger pump. We spent, what was it, $3,000 on that thing, $2,000?
it. It was.
$3,000.
30 something.
It was
I thought it was
$3,400 we
maybe
spent on
because
that
the
pump.
water
That
was
was more
lower,
than the
you know,
pump.
it's
to begin
low
with.
tide. Oh.
But it's a larger pump, and so it's creating much better.
Yeah.
Can you adjust it to a different?
Actually, the actual water pattern is that. You don't-
That's
you
it,
don't
no other.
Have any other
It's
option
the
there.
same,
The light pattern change.
Well, how so?
Faster, slower, one color.
Yeah, you can lock it in on one color. It rotates colors.
I like the colors like it matches out there at the
Okay.
splash pad, don't you? Do you guys?
I'm not out there very often at night.
I'm not out there. real
Well, it
often, but I do
rotates.
go through it and look at
It can rotate one color at a time. Is what it does. It's not a complex where you have 5 different bulbs shining different colors at different time, at the same time.
it.
You got one color at one time. And
And
that's
then
pretty
that's the way
much,
the kind of splash pad is.
well, it's actually got, you can actually change the colors up. You've got different areas, different
Oh, I
zones.
see.
It has zones where
Well,
that's
I know
only
we have
one
that,
zone.
but I do like. it.
During the COVID pandemic.
I like it rotating through. I think it's good.
I do too.
After the big rain, I gave you the
You
rain.
should drive through it.
After
and
the,
see what
after
it
the big
looks like.
rain, it's like.
I go by my 5 every
And
morning.
what
so I
else
see it.
spawned
So
up
you do
the
see
next
it.
time I look.
Jenny,
I'm like,
just
wow,
get
he thought I was
walk
saying that.
through there and you'll see.
Oh, function at that time. of morning.
But yeah,
I
that,
mean, it's pretty.
Oh,
Jeff says he sees
Yeah, every
Well, he
morning.
goes to work.
it's to work.
it really looks good. It looks so much better for that larger plume that it's got.
You have anything else?
Well, man, that's all I've got.
You have new business? I had a question. Nick can probably help me with this. There is a mimosa tree that's growing up there. It's the Joyce monument. That thing's going to break it. Then if that tree doesn't come out of it. I mean, mimosa roots are bad.
Would you believe I've already cut that once this year?
Is that right?
That's how fast they grow.
Yeah, I do look
Where's
Like
it
a crepe
at?
myrtle, probably.
It's
Fast
over
grower.
next to an A section, almost to the wall.
Oh.
Joyce is the monument, and this tree's coming up, and it will break that monument. on the
Yeah.
road. And there's also a big dead limb. Did you see that limb? It's over close to Candy's, and one of the big trees, and there's a big dead
It's on the
limb. Part of
left.
it's fallen,
It's on the
and
left,
I'm just
right?
afraid that might fall on somebody. If you look at
It's
that,
hanging in there now.
it's hanging in there now, but part of it had broken off, and I'm sure one of its limbs.
I can see it
Oh.
going on.
I just don't want to.
Can we put some sterilizer on that mimosa?
Oh, I can,
I figured you could.
yeah. I can
You'll
take
take
care
care
of
of
it.
it.
It's not-
He's got the license to take care of that.
not an issue.
License to kill. Trees. Weeds.
And I had another question as far as like, I looked in the regulations trying to find, when can we get rid of like old tattered flowers and things like that that have been there forever? I mean, can we do that?
I thought we had
I
it
think
all
it's-
in there, yeah.
I think the section has the ability to do that.
I usually go through there about 3 times a year. And take down whatever I think needs to come
Yeah, I mean, there are some that are really bad and some that have got caught up in lawnmowers.
You got the
and-
regulations
I
right
think
there.
I'm
I
Those
looked
bad
for it
ones
and it
right
said,
now.
I found.
I'm
the part
updating
about
all that.
grants and
I will.
Trimming and all that, but I didn't. I thought it was. in
I
there.
think it's,
I
I'm
think-
pretty sure it's on there.
Are you insinuating?
On yours, I
No.
didn't call any.
No, Jennifer changed.
I'll do it.
She's pretty
But I
good.
mean, there just are some that are really, really bad. And it's not
That's,
good.
I think that's pretty specifically addressed.
I think, yeah, I think the sexton is giving them the authority to look at them, and if they've gone so long, he can actually
If you
have
need
them
help,
removed.
I'm pretty good with garbage day.
Me too, huh?
But I did notice when I was looking for the veterans things, I know that the grass has grown like crazy this year. And I'm afraid some of the markers are getting grass covered. I mean, it
There
was-
are.
I had to
Yeah.
pull back on some of them to even read what they were saying. And I mean, I know that's a terrible,
They're weed eating
That's
like they
being-
should, but they're not, they're not edging.
well,
They're
it's
not
being
gonna do that.
picky, and I don't mean to be picky, but it's overgrowing it. And once the grass dies, maybe, it won't happen. It may, you'll be able to.
I'm trying to figure out which part of that you're,
Like you're edging your
Yeah.
driveway,
yeah.
but she's talking about
The
the flush
grass is
mounted
completely grown over some of
covering the
the
flush
military
mounted.
markers.
Oh, flush run north.
So,
It's usually it's always a Bermuda that does that.
yeah, just.
And
sprays.
then-
And it's just hot time of the year.
Yes.
Yeah,
Right, and whenever winter gets here, it just starts.
that's what I was hoping.
Do I need to say something to?
No, I mean, they're doing a great job.
They are. I don't know that they
I
would
don't know
do
how
that.
we
That
can
would
keep
be a
our own
lot. That
yards
would be
cut,
tough.
much less how you could cut
Can
that.
we put some
But-
spray around the edge of that?
Yeah, I can kill it, it's not an issue.
Just go around the edge of it with that?
Especially this time of year would be great, because we won't have time to go back.
But, I mean, if you just check. it. Do you have anything for us, Nick? Nick, do you have something for us? Do you have anything for us?
No,
No,
I have one question.
you do.
Yes. And I'm glad Nick's here because he can support me a little bit on this or help me. The old tombstone is behind.
Mausoleum,
Huh?
mausoleum.
You're right behind the mausoleum.
yes, Nick.
Yes. We moved it because of the tree a few years ago. Because the tree grew up right up through the grave and pushed it over and then we moved it. Is there any reason that a person like myself can't go over there and reset that, John?
Are you talking to me or him?
John.
Okay, because you were talking to him and you shifted
I was
on
talking
me.
to him. Oh, I called your name.
I've had to move it once and I did.
You mean far as heavy?
I don't want to use any equipment.
No.
I can't move it myself.
No, that's why
You're talking about moving the headstone?
moving it back where it belongs.
No,
It's taken out of the way to remove a tree. And we never
What you
moved
need
it
to do on that is say something to him so that we can do that. We've got the equipment to do it. We need to do it. It doesn't need to be done by volunteers on that.
back. Well, you're
because-
gonna have to do this by hand. You can't get equipment in there.
Well, I mean, same thing. We
Yeah.
still need to, it needs to be done by us. We have the insurance
Tripod.
coverage.
Okay.
It needs to be done by somebody that the city will cover.
That's correct.
The
And that's what I'm
pedestal-
talking
the
about.
Pedestal, you noticed it, it has the pin or the rebar, or whatever they used at the time, it's bent. I think that can be heated up and straightened up to support the top section pretty easy.
Would you want me to call a mining company to see if they would move it back?
Well, that would be even better, whatever you think,
That'd probably be the best thing.
But you probably know where it goes.
I know right where it goes.
I measured it off before it moved, so okay.
Was it moved for some
For
reason?
that one tree.
The tree
Oh, get the
was-
tree out?
The tree was grown right up through it.
Oh,
I had to move it so it wouldn't destroy it.
much like you're talking about with the mimosa.
This was a big old, I don't even, what was it, it was a maple, it was something.
I think it's arm.
It was a
I
piece
don't
of
remember
junk
what it was
tree.
actually.
It's pretty big, whenever we had some took out,
You call a maple a junk tree?
yeah, it roots to the top of the ground.
Man, he sounds just like Brad.
Top of the ground. I love the shade, but
Yeah,
But I was curious about that. I'd like to get it back in place.
Well, that-
And
that's fine. But it's just something that either because we have coverage it needs to be done by either our employees or we get somebody that was contracted to do that.
So I'm getting a lot better asking now instead of just doing something.
He used to get in trouble all the time. though.
I'm in trouble all
Well,
the time.
when you work with Uncle Johnny old bird, you've done it.
Oh.
But I just-
Because he was in charge of it then too.
Yeah, but it's, get over and do. It was something wrong with it. But one of these days I won't be here and you might not also, so, I don't want to forget, don't be forgotten.
If he ever retires up, you need to apply for the sexton job. There you go. You can work all day long.
You go home.
Work day in, but
That's right.
he does that anyway. I see. Every time
Yeah, he don't look up or wave or anything like that when he's mowing, that's for sure.
Oh, I'm over 3 acres. I've got to go.
I understand that. I know, yeah. Willie Kern scared the bejesus out of me the other day. I'm mowing, I'm backing up, and I'm right there on the edge of the road. This car comes by me, and goes, and I'm all over the place, and I look up, and it's an Audi. I'm going, there's only one person's got an Audi that's that loud. That had to be Willie Kearns. And it was.
You can't wave people with a 0 turn, you just can't do it.
Well, yeah.
Well, you can.
But no, I go off to one side, I try
The
to.
yard looked funny.
All right, Mike, I know has some.
The question I was asked, the lady's husband died and he was cremated. And she said, prior to buying the lot, they had asked if 2 cremains could go on the same lot, because she was going to be cremated too. And at that time, the answer was yes. Well, she's concerned now. Because I told her.
Well,
"It's
she's
not that way
grandfathered
anymore."
in, right?
So
Would
what?
she be
Is
grandfathered
she
in?
grandfathered in? Or
If she bought them under the assumption that she could have 2.
Is that what does it say that
No,
anywhere?
it says you have 1 body and 1 cremate.
Now.
Now.
It is,
So that's not what
what whatever she signed.
Well, I don't think it says. It's not on a burial contract.
I don't think
It's
they
in
have-
regulation.
In this situation, I would have to contact the cemetery board to see what they think about.
Well, we'd
the
have to go back and
situation.
look at the regulations at that time.
Well,
I don't think they're worried.
I don't think you had, no. I-
It was a verbal thing.
Yeah,
Right.
I think
Was it
so.
after we
No,
owned
No.
it or? before
well,
we-
it was after we owned it, but it was before
We
the
did,
columbarium.
and before we
So,
started making rules about.
you know,
cremains.
yeah,
The only thing that I remember is there is one family that y'all have allowed to allow 2 cremains on because that was the agreement that y'all had made with them before you changed it.
Same deal here.
okay.
It'd be the same
Was
thing.
that the family that last month I asked about? We really didn't get a good answer as to that.
I'd almost give them a niche.
Well,
I
They
don't
live
think
up.
she
She
wants
wants
that.
to be together.
I'm
No.
saying in a niche.
Oh, well,
You can put both of them in a niche if they're
Is that all
cremains.
they're wanting to put on that lot is 2,
Two cremains.
Well,
but no
one-
body?
No,
nobody. See that he was cremated when they bought the lot. He was going to be cremated.
And he died in
And he died.
2013.
The answer to this question is, do you want to reconsider a change to your rules to allow 2 cremations to be placed in there?
If there's not a body.
If there's not a body there, do you want to change your regulations? That seems to be the
Well,
question. that's
no,
being
that's
raised.
not the
No, that's
question.
not it.
The question is, she got it before
I
the rule.
understand.
You can't break the rule if it wasn't there.
Right,
And if she had died like the next month, she'd be there now and there wouldn't be a question.
and if she had bought it and it had said on the contract, yeah, this is what we're gonna do, then there wouldn't be a question. But what we got now is, well, she said, well, when did she say? Well, I don't know for sure, but well, what did she say? Well, I don't know for sure, but this is what she understood. And you wind up with such an ambiguous picture. Such an ambiguous picture that you don't have anything that you can enforce. When you start making exceptions to rules based upon some conversation somebody had out on the tree one day, then you kind of might as well throw away the rules.
I understand what you're saying there, but that you have to have the rules in place and you have to do it. I guess my problem with it is if you are understood.
I
to
totally
have
agree.
to,
I totally understand that, agree.
And the columbarium, what, now I can understand, if the columbarium's there, you can have one cremain and one body, and that's it. But if the columbarium's not there,
It's an evidentiary question.
Oh, no, wait
It's
a
not,
minute.
it's not a question of
What?
There's not gonna be a body in it here.
no, two cremains.
You have one, we have one body and one cremain allowed in, so
Yes.
here's two people, just because they're cremated. Doesn't mean that doesn't
That's what I
work.
was saying.
That's
If it's,
what I
okay, if it's gonna be okay, just generally speaking, to put two cremains in the same, if the limit
I see
is
what you're
two
saying.
That's
human
not
beings
what
in
it
the
says.
grave,
That's not what the
well,
regulations.
that's what I'm saying.
Yeah.
If it's okay with you guys philosophically as a group to allow two people to be buried, obviously not two graves, but if you're gonna allow one cremain and a body, philosophically speaking, is it okay for you to put two cremains in the same grave? If so, that solves the issue.
I mean,
It solves one issue
If
and
that's
creates
the
a
phil-
problem for another issue.
Well, it may, but if
Yeah.
that solves
Yeah.
it philosophically.
Columbarium
I know
useless.
what you're saying. The columbarium was there and we made, when the columbarium was built, we made it to be one set of cremains and one body. But if it happened before,
Is it clear that it did?
Yeah, that part's clear.
It is clear.
He died before that, it's on the.
he died in 2013.
No.
What?
No. So when they bought that
When they
lot,
bought it, it was
Yes.
before there was any rule.
and there is a cremated
Body
body
there.
buried there now,
And she's supposed to be cremated.
and that's clear.
That's
Yeah.
clear.
That's not a he said, she said, that's
No.
No, he's there.
there's a date.
That's documented.
If that's documented, then I think that's probably a situation where it was an implied circumstance of the contract. When they bought that lot, these were the rules. That's not really in question.
Mhm.
It's not just as somebody said, or it doesn't, at that point, it probably doesn't even matter whether she asked. Those were the rules that were in place, and those were the rules that were in place at the time they bought that lot. And so changing the rules after somebody buys the lot, yeah, I think that would be an element of the initial contract.
All right, what I would like for you to do though is let him know who that is so that we can make a note on that. So if anything does happen down the road, we have something on
Yeah.
file because we're not wanting to say the name. That's
Mhm.
fine, but make sure that he knows who that is so that he or his successor will know that this is allowed because this was what they were given and at the time.
I do have a question. and
That
this is
needs to
just-
be noted somewhere.
This is just I don't understand the question. When the cemetery was back in perpetual care, if someone bought 6 lots, who owned the dirt and grass?
Who on
Oh,
what?
what?
The dirt and grass of those 6 lots.
There was a group, it was I forgot what it was, but it was a trusteeship kind of a situation, and there was an owner, and when it got transferred to the city, I'd have to look at the deed to see who grantor was, but there was an owner.
Okay, so when it was perpetual care, there was an owner and it was not the people who purchased those lots, correct?
Right. That's right.
Okay, I had that question 1,000 times and I didn't think that was right, but
No.
so in a situation like this, okay, the city now took over and those persons still don't own the dirt and grass, they just have the right to be buried.
It's called a right of interment, and that's what you buy.
And so in this situation, you're not really changing anything when it comes to the proposed agreement or the agreement they signed back in 2013 versus now. It's kind of making a long way around here. Nothing is really changing from what they purchased back then because there was no contract. That's the way I understand it, correct?
Right.
So they were just under the assumption that they could be cremated.
There was a conversation apparently that took place,
Okay.
correct?
Yeah.
There was a conversation that took place.
Oh, yeah,
Okay.
because that was
Well, one of our board members, as a matter of fact.
They bought a right of interment in a cemetery that had these rules in place, and you could bury whatever you wanted.
Okay. I understand that.
And much like it's similar to a subdivision. You buy a lot in a subdivision, you're buying a lot in that subdivision. And you have a right to own a lot if that plat's already been recorded. That's what so you can't start erasing lines, and moving stuff, because I didn't buy a lot in the subdivision you're proposing. I bought one, the one that actually exists. And that's what we're talking about here. If it's clear that that purchase took place at a time that there clearly was a different set of rules. in
We should have a record
They
of
should
it if it's
have
13 because Nick
Right.
was taking records at that time.
Nick's who they talk to.
And, you know, and like I said, it was what? It was it 18 when we put the columbarium in?
Time flies. I believe it before.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
didn't
it
realize
was-
that
it
the
was-
guy had already been buried. Somebody had
Yeah.
already
Yeah.
been buried there.
I mean, they bought it.
Yeah.
He died right after.
I think any court in the country would uphold that.
I do too.
But be aware that there is an evidentiary for the next person. Be aware there's an evidentiary issue. Because if somebody comes in and
Thank
says,
you.
I bought the lot and somebody said such and such, and then I just own a lot. There's nobody buried there. I just own a lot. Somebody told me these were rules. Those are not the rules. Probably not. Because these people actually have taken an action based upon the regulation that was in place at the time, or the rules that were in place at the time they bought it. They've already buried somebody there. It's not like they own a lot, and, well, this is my expectation. Yeah, not only is it my expectation, but my husband's buried there.
Has he been cremated?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
I
So
didn't know.
that's a different situation. I didn't understand the full picture.
Okay, they good? Anything else? Anybody? Are we good? It's good to have everybody here.
Isn't it? though?
Sure is.
That's
So-
great.
Wait a minute,
Let's
wait a
go.
minute, I do have something.
Oh,
I just gotta ask a question about, those, that stuff sitting in front of our, going into the cemetery, the plants. Some has died, and so is this supposed to be brought up at the meeting, or do you just tell the guy who takes care of
Wayne
it?
takes care of
Mr.
that.
Peck does that, right?
Wayne Peck takes care of it.
Well, there is a plant.
Well, I like
now.
to tell, well, he's not gonna do anything with it right now because
No, I
of
don't
the weather
expect-
is. I
right.
figure this fall you'll see something change.
Okay,
I mean,
I
yeah, he
just
does, he
noticed
does
that.
that. I mean, he'll say, a lot of times he'll let me know that I've got some such and such, and I
okay,
fix it. So,
okay, no,
He does a great job.
yeah, it's just right now, it's like, you know, I've got a bunch of trees that I can't transplant until the weather gets better.
okay,
It's just not in the right time to do it.
no, I know.
So, and we don't
Just
have
noted-
water.
Had to be noted on. Okay.
No, uh-uh.
and Nick, we
We've already got
appreciate
that
you.
contract.
Yes.
Okay, do I have a motion to adjourn here? Dale, and second,
Uh,
Michael second, all in favor?
Uh,
And we adjourn at 5:07.